There's also state-of-the-art event and meeting spaces for hire, a complimentary business support service to help you upskill, apply for grants and grow, workshops and networking, as well as training for young kids right through to adults. Plus, the City of Playford Library.
Contact our team for a tour on 8254 4666 or visit the Stratton Centre at 307 Peachy Road, Manopara.
Support your local theatre and arts industry and enjoy a show at the Shedley. Playford's iconic Shedley Theatre is bringing a great selection of local and national performances to Elizabeth.
For more information on their upcoming shows, visit theshedley.com.au or call 8256 0500.
Did you know your food scraps should go in the green bin or a home compost system? It's better for the environment. It's the right thing to do. And it's easy. Fight food waste by putting all your food scraps, peels and leftovers in the green bin. To find out more, visit playford.sa.gov.au/fightfoodwaste.
Want to know what's happening in the community? Subscribe to our e-newsletter, Playford News, at playford.sa.gov.au and you'll be on top of stories, news and what's happening in Playford. It's local news for local people.
Want to get involved in your community? There are so many benefits in becoming a volunteer at City of Playford, including meeting new people, developing new skills, sharing your talents, improving your employability, as well as enhancing your own mental health and well-being.
If you want to learn more about how to volunteer with us, visit playford.sa.gov.au/volunteers. Feedback about our city's future from our community is really important. It helps us prioritise your needs when planning services, projects and other initiatives.
A convenient way to have your say and stay in the loop on any upcoming consultations is by registering your details.
Good evening all and welcome to this December meeting, the Christmas edition of the City of Playford Council Assessment Panel. I will shortly move to introductions, but just before I do that I'll read our acknowledgement of country. We would like to acknowledge that this land we meet on today is the traditional land of the Kaurna people and that we respect their spiritual relationship with their country. The City of Playford would also like to pay respects to elders past, present and emerging. Now, as I said, we do have a gallery with us this evening, so I will introduce the members of the panel to you. To my left is Mr. Aaron Curtis, and to my right is Mr. Adam Squires, and just on the table down there we have Mr. Paul Micken. We do have some apologies from our elected members, which I'll get to shortly. My name is Jeff Parsons, I'm the presiding member. We are ably assisted by members of Council's administration tonight. We have Matt, our Senior Manager of Development Services, Leif, our Manager of Planning Services, Mahmood, one of our Senior Planners, Sky and Zoe assisting us with governance and minutes, and Braden on IT. So, good evening to you all. Now members, just moving through the administrative items of our agenda. As I said, we do have apologies which have come through from Councillor Misty Norris and also Councillor Tanya Smoljanik. hope I pronounced that correctly. And also, it's appropriate to welcome Tanya to the panel as the deputy member. We've had a change there with Jane no longer being our deputy member, so welcome to Tanya. Now, confirmation of the minutes of the last meeting. Our last meeting was held on the 21st of November 2024. All members have received a copy of those minutes. Any questions in relation to the production of the minutes? No? In that case, I'm looking for a mover that they be adopted, please. Adam, I'll take you as the mover. Paul, I'll take you as the seconder. Thank you. All those in favour, please raise your hand. That's carried unanimously. Thank you. Applications withdrawn tonight is nil. Declaration of interest. Does any member have any declaration of interest they would like to make this evening? All right, members, that does bring us to our first and only development assessment item for consideration this evening. So this is an application for a staff car park, associated signage and fencing for an existing educational facility, including the removal of 3 regulated trees and the planting of 2 new street trees. The applicant is Catherine Macaulay School, care of URPS. It's located at 23 Adams Road in Craigmore in the general neighbourhood zone, performance assessed and given public notification. The recommendation is that we grant planning consent. Mahmood, you were the assessing officer for the application. Would you have anything you'd like to take us through as an introduction?
Yes, thank you, Presiding Member. Just a slight caveat, the updated car park layout plan is now in accordance with the landscape concept design plan. The only change from the previous revision dated 5 August 2024 is showing 2 street trees and 8 replacement trees within the site, which, as I said, that is in accordance with the landscape concept plan and the nature of development. It also must be noted that the updated car park layout plan dated 26 August 2024 was within the public notification documentation as well. But separate to that, happy to take on any questions as they come about. Thank you.
Thank you very much. All right, members, we did have a number of representations received as part of this item. If some have indicated a desire to be heard, so I'll just check. Do we have Miss Lynette Brooks with us this evening? No, okay. And so I'm assuming we don't have, or do we have Mr. James Brooks? Oh, yes, James, you're with us. Excellent. And do we have Mr. Dean and Miss Julie Thompson? Yes, okay, excellent, thank you. So there are a few rules around how this process works, so just bear with me and I'll explain it to you and then I'll invite you up to the stand here. So this really is an opportunity for you to address the panel and to speak to your representation. You can highlight any key points that you would like the panel to consider in our decision making this evening. Once all representatives have addressed the panel, the applicant is given the opportunity to respond. We have a representative of the applicant in the gallery. Representatives and applicants have 5 minutes to address the panel. I do normally keep track of time just to provide procedural fairness to everyone. If you do get close to that mark, I'll just ask you to begin summing up. It's important to note the panel has copies of the representations and the applicant's response, and we've had an opportunity to read all of that. So this really is the chance to highlight any key points. The panel may have questions of you once you finish speaking, so when it's your turn to speak, we have a little podium up here that we ask you to come up to. There's a microphone so anyone who's online can hear. So we'll just ask you to step up, and once you finish speaking, I'll just check if there are any questions for you. Often the panel has more questions of the applicant than the representatives. That's simply because the applicant has detailed knowledge of the proposal and we might need to delve down into that a little bit. Once you've spoken, there's no further opportunity to address the panel, but you are welcome to stay in the gallery and observe the decision-making process. It's an open meeting. We don't go into confidence unless we need to discuss legal advice or for any other reason in the Act, so you'll be able to observe all of that. And finally, the panel's role is not one where we mediate between the parties. Our role is one where we need to make a balanced planning judgment based on the information that's before us, and we use the information that you provide to help us in that process. So that said, James, I'm happy to invite you up if you'd like to step up and take us through your comments.
Hello, my name's James Brooks, and my main concern is I'm sick of being flooded out. I live in 76 Washington Drive, and all the water coming off Adams Road is, you know, it's no good. I mean, how many times you got to be flooded? I mean, the last time through the house, through the garage, backyard full, into the house behind me, and it's coming out the house. It's just too much water. I mean, and I don't believe this one car park's going to make less water, because all the water's got to go somewhere off that property. So, I mean, okay, we've got to talk about this one development, but the bulk of the water's coming from the school. Because that never used to be there before. Until they built the school and the gymnasium, no one got flooded out. And the pipes are not big enough to handle the water. I mean, okay, there's only one car park there now, but the school's already bought 2 other blocks beside it, so there's going to be more car parks and more water. I mean, I know that's not listed, but it's all, for me, it's all about the water. I'm sick of being flooded out, and that's what it's all about. You know, if they can guarantee there's going to be no more water put in the system by then, the 2 blocks, maybe it'll be good, but all the water's coming from the school. I mean, it runs out the drain on Adams Road, goes in the houses, comes down, runs out the drain by my house, goes through my house next door, goes out my backyard. So I don't really know how many other people flooded, but just in our area, and it's getting worse all the time because they've got more buildings over here. And that's the main problem, is flooding for me. And this can guarantee less water going into the system. It's not going to fix my problem. And how many times have you flooded out? And that costs me money every time it happens. I mean, the councils come around, they check the drains, all that's fine, but basically the drains are not big enough. And they can't handle the water when you get a decent rain. And that's, you know, so I don't know. But you know, how many times have you flooded out? And it's never going to get any better, it gets worse every time. There's more water coming into the system in that area where we live. It's in a big hollow. Because originally, if you look at one of the old plans, where we are, there's a watercourse here. And that's why we're in the low part of the road, same as on Adams Road, and that's where the watercourse used to be. So if you get an old drawing, you can see it there, and that's where we're sat. So, I mean, that's my main concern is, I don't have to park the cars, that's fine, as long as there's no extra water coming off. But yeah, it's all about flooding for me. So yeah.
Thank you, James.
Okay.
Made your points well. I'll just ask if the panel members have any questions they would like to put to you. Do you have any questions, members? No, in that case, thank you, James. Appreciate it. Thank you. Now, Dean and Julie Thompson, would you like to... Julie, you're going to speak? Sure. Sure.
So we're directly behind this proposed car park. We have a lot of concerns being right there. One being the height of the fence from the other house is only 1.4. I know it says in the paperwork that it was never measured, so I don't know why. So it's on a slant, so our side is 1.6 and theirs is 1.4. So my concern is people can just stand there and look over the fence directly into a bedroom where our grandson lives at the moment. And security, there's nothing going to be there at all weekends and at night. So security is a main concern. Devalue of the properties Everyone I say they want to build a car park behind my house just can't believe it. It's unprecedented in that area, and it's something that we can't just get our head around. And with the housing crisis, why are we knocking down houses to build a car park? I don't understand. We built our house in 1989. We've lived there ever since. Never expected a car park to be built behind us. And we know that the houses next to this property have been approached as well. So we're concerned about plans for the future. If this goes through, does that mean there's going to be more car parks? There's no guarantee that the car park would never eventually be higher. Yeah, as well as the flooding, which we haven't had a problem, but we don't want to have a problem with that. So we don't want to invite that happening. Yeah, next door did, and I think at one stage it did come through our fence line. But yeah, we just don't want to open that can of worms and be included in that problem as well.
Who pays the excess?
Pardon?
Who pays the excess? We've got excess insurance if we claim every time.
Yeah, so we really are against it being right behind the property. So I hope you take that into consideration. Thank you.
Thank you, Julie. Do you have any questions, members? Yes, Adam. Yeah.
Thank you. Just a point of clarification in regard to the fencing side of things you may have mentioned at the start. Sorry, just so it's clear for the panel. And this isn't saying you're supporting the application by any stretch, but the preference would be for the fence to be higher than what's currently shown. Okay.
Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah, we would rather it didn't go ahead, but if it did go ahead, we would like a much higher fence.
Okay.
For security.
Thank you. That's
and
yeah. Just wanted to clarify that. Thank you.
Thank you. Further questions, members? No? In that case, thank you very much. We appreciate it. Thank you. Now, members, understand we have a representative of the applicant, Ms. Julie Lewis from URPS. So, Julie, would you like to come forward, please?
Good evening, everyone. Thank you for giving us the chance to respond. Look, I'm not here to deny what is the experience in terms of localised flooding of the representatives. We have responded to that in our response to representations. I'm confident the stormwater engineers have considered what they need to consider, and I think there was a slight reduction from memory. I have to confess I forgot to print our response to representations, upon which I summarised some feedback from them, and it's not in the copy document, so I can't refer back to that. But I think there is a slight reduction in water, actually stormwater leaving the site. Dean, and I've forgotten his surname, but I did speak to him on the phone and acknowledged that it was probably my mistake about the reference to the fence height. We'd taken it off the plans that for the parts of the fencing that I knew for a fact had been measured, which we were matching. But I have actually not been in the backyard, I have to admit, so we were relying on what the arborist had informed us of. I noticed there's a condition for 1.8 metre high fencing. I don't believe the neighbours, on the side boundaries made any comment about fence height, but I can certainly accept that the fence height at the back is rather lacking. So I know Dean didn't particularly want a good neighbour fence because it had a flat top and he's worried about people climbing over. But I know the applicant, through the architect, has agreed they can provide a 1.8 metre fence on the car park side, and it's good neighbours, so there's less climbing opportunity. So I know that we can meet that condition if that's applied. I have seen some stormwater mapping for the school site. To the best of my knowledge, this application and any other application for the existing school site has been referred internally to council engineers, and we were told that there was no concern arising. I understood, particularly for some work we're doing on the school site itself, that stormwater actually goes to the basin which is further down Adams Street, not across Adams. So I can't categorically say where all that water's coming from, but if there's a problem to be solved that's generated by the school, it's possibly the next application that might be able to deal with that, if that's correct. But in terms of this site, this development is not going to make those matters worse per se. So based on the engineer's report, and I have to accept that I'm not an engineer, so I'm being guided by them. If the pipes aren't big enough, then I would have thought water would be pooling back the other way, not in the other direction. However, I've seen the hazard mapping in the code. There is clearly a problem in Washington, but this development is not going to make that worse compared to existing conditions. So I'm happy to answer any other questions. I think the keys that we've summarised are that I appreciate it's a car park, I appreciate it's a change, but as a school car park it has quite limited use. It will have fencing at the front as well, which will make security less of a risk than is perceived by some. There is some low-level security lighting. We could manage about, what time they come on and off, if that's something that would help overcome some of those representations. But in any event, it will be gated at night and on the weekends, and it will be shut even during school hours, so unless you've got your own remote to open and close it. So if I can answer anything else that you want to raise, I will do my best.
Thanks, Julie. Questions, members? Yes, Paul.
Through the chair, Julie, I may have missed it in the report, but can you confirm, will the lighting of the car park, both the directional sign or light signage of uplight and also the internal lighting of the car park, will that be turned off after hours?
That was the plan. They're usually on a timer. I'm not sure we've been explicit about time in our report, but my understanding is they can be on a timer. So I understand it can be adjusted to whatever is required. Yep.
Okay. There was, thank you for that. In your report you mentioned about a redevelopment scheme underway on the site. Is that going to, in the long term, increase the student numbers?
That is the longer term plan. At the moment, there's a lot of students, I believe, in some transportables that the school had approval for back in maybe 23, and that the admin building that is proposed, the other site, has got some general learning areas upstairs, which is supposed to accommodate removing the transportables that are on the other school site. Right. And I know this is not directly related to your question. I know most schools are opportunist when it comes to purchasing other property. I know they have another allotment, I think it's number 21, 19 down the road from this. I don't know about others, but we're not here to assess what may or may not be built in the future.
Thank you. I know we're dealing with this application on this site, but I am interested to know whether opportunities to provide additional car parking on the site itself, on the main school site, whether that's an important principle of the redevelopment, or is that?
Well, there will be some inbuilt capacity. There's no doubt about that in that car park, because the administration redevelopment on the existing campus was going to happen first. They're going to lose a lot of access to that car parking, hence this application, which ties it up for that construction period, and it will provide some inbuilt capacity if enrolments increase over time.
Thanks, Paul. Other questions? No? In that case, thank you, Julie. Appreciate it. Now, members, do you have any questions you would like to pose to the administration? No? If not, oh, yes. Sorry, Aaron. Yes.
Yes, thanks. Through the chair, I appreciate the matter of the stormwater issues, localised issues in Washington Street were likely a matter directed mostly to engineering or works. But I guess I'm just keen to understand the extent of the issue that from staff's understanding and how they currently see that issue, and I guess its relationship with development in that particular area, noting the applicant's representative Julie noted in the overlay that there are some localised flooding concerns, so I just wouldn't mind hearing from staff's point of view on that one.
Thank you for that. So in regards to the discussion around flooding, I do know from discussion with representatives and looking at the SAPA mapping for the hazard flooding overlay, 74 and 76 Washington are actually shown as low points in the hazard mapping, which is shown essentially where most of the flooding is going. Now, separate to this process, I have discussed with internal teams in regards to the pipe capacity and what that looks like. Again, they've advised that the pipe is actually sufficient enough to carry a lot of that water runoff from the existing road infrastructure. In terms of any additional flooding from this development itself, I do know, and as Julie has stated, the stormwater has been reviewed by our land development engineer and have confirmed that it's acceptable and in accordance with council stormwater guidelines. It also must be noted that the development is proposing a bioretention basin to essentially hold a lot of that water and to be reused for the landscaping, with the overflow going to the drainage pipe, which is shown as an easement on the certificate of title.
Thank you. Can I just ask the administration, I was just wondering the thought process around the recommendation and the fact that I don't think hours of operation for the car park form part of the recommendation in terms of a condition that might limit them. We still, as a panel, obviously need to determine whether or not we support the proposal, but if we did, can I just ask for the rationale around that and why you thought that may not have been necessary?
Yep. So in regards to that question, I guess the process from the council's perspective is the car park will be used for staff parking, which essentially could vary in terms of the time a lot of the staff members reach the school itself. Now, it has been noted in the planning report from memory, so apologies if I'm a little bit wrong, that will be predominantly used prior to the peak period of the school starting and after the school finishes on a weekday basis. That will be the sort of the peak period of use for the parking itself. In terms of council's assessment, from our perspective, we felt that the hours of operation will closely align with the operation of the school itself. However, we can't condition away when obviously staff are actually going to come to the site to park and possibly undertake work prior to the actual day itself beginning and ending. So just in terms of the operation itself of any educational facility, it does vary from a day-to-day basis.
Oh, thank you. Thanks for that response. Right, members, if there are no further questions of the administration, can I ask for your views in respect to this matter? You obviously have a lot of detailed information before you as part of the application package, a good report from the administration, and you've heard obviously from the representatives and applicant. What are your views in respect of this? Adam, thank you.
Yeah, thank you. Yeah, look, I suppose going through the application, the land use was probably one I did spend a little bit of time wrestling with, just in terms of, it's not necessarily a land use that's envisaged by the zone, but at the same time it's not envisaged. So I think on balance I was comfortable that it is associated with the existing school, which has got a long established footprint in the area and pretty close alignment in that space. I think in terms of interface, the lighting report was able to demonstrate that that's going to be pretty well contained within the site. I did spend a fair bit of time with the stormwater aspect, noting some of the concerns that were raised. And I think, going through that report, it does demonstrate that peak development flows match in with the existing conditions. The stormwater restriction is through an orifice plate, which is it's a blunt way to control stormwater, but it's effective because you can't have more water coming out than what the plate allows. So I'm fairly comfortable that as long as that's in place, there's not going to be any further impacts downstream than there would be otherwise. I think overall fairly comfortable with the application in its current form.
Thank you. Other members, how do you feel? Aaron?
Yeah, thanks through the chair. Look, I've reached a similar conclusion. I broadly support the development. I do acknowledge some of the representatives' concerns, in particular the matter of flooding. Clearly there's some existing stormwater issues in the locality that understand the council is aware of, and it is outside the scope of the panel's remit to consider that issue. But I obviously encourage council to consider that further in terms of what further work it could do to alleviate the concerns of the representative. But I'm satisfied with the stormwater report and plans that demonstrate that downstream flows will be mitigated and there will be no adverse impact from this development. So I believe the proposal has effectively met the provisions of the code for this development. In terms of land use, I am broadly comfortable. The general neighbourhood zone does contemplate non-residential development, and explicitly in relation to educational facilities. And I think it's noted that the applicant is seeking to, be strategic in trying to mitigate car parking pressures by making investment in this car park, acknowledging that future developments on their main school site may result in other car parking impacts. So broadly I support that. I think the other matters around design of the car park, there's good setbacks around the perimeter to accommodate for landscaping, so I think the applicant has been pretty mindful to actually minimise the impact, and that's very much what the code seeks, about maintaining residential character and amenity from non-residential development. There is obviously loss of several regulated trees, but on balance I think the replacement through new plantings is appropriate, and the proposal includes 2 new street trees, which is also positive. So look, overall I'm supportive of the proposal. The other matter I support is the raising of the fence as per the condition that's in the recommendation. I wouldn't be opposed though to, if the applicant was to negotiate with the neighbours to achieve a higher fence, if that was what the parties agree. Thanks.
Yes, Paul. Thank you.
Okay, firstly, just note that I don't believe the proposal is seriously at variance with the policies and the code. While the zone doesn't explicitly anticipate this land use, it doesn't speak against it either. I think while parking for schools is certainly not unusual, they're normally not separated from the school like this situation. It's effectively the first non-residential use on the west side of Adams Road, although the broader locality does obviously include the school and the aged care facility. So it's certainly not a pristine residential area in that immediate locality. I'd be concerned if this was the trigger or the first of multiple parking facilities, but we have to deal with what's before us tonight, and that's we can't base our decision on what might occur in the future. and in that regard, I think the facility has been well designed. It takes into account proper access. As a previous speaker mentioned, the setbacks off the boundary are quite generous, allowing planting. Although there are trees to be removed, the additional planting and tree planting and other species will, I think, improve the overall landscape amenity of certainly of the site and the locality. I too am satisfied with the fencing, and I note that the applicant appears willing to negotiate higher fencing, and condition 11 certainly allows that by saying not less than 1.8. So if they were to go 2.1 or higher, that wouldn't be in breach of that condition and certainly would be encouraged. Stormwater, I'm satisfied with what's been presented to us, but just have to ensure that both volume and flows are managed, so that there isn't any increase to existing problems. But on that note, it's clear that the existing stormwater issues are caused by other factors rather than this particular site. But I'm satisfied that the conditions and the scheme prepared by the engineers will ensure that the existing problems aren't increased from what they currently are. So I support the proposal.
Thank you, and I have similar views, members, so it sounds as if we're all in agreement. I agree it's not seriously at variance, it's not a grave departure from the policies that are applicable. The zone predominantly encourages residential uses, but it anticipates non-residential uses where they don't compromise residential amenity, and I think that's a key point here. Locality does have a mixed character, just like Paul suggested, but it is predominantly residential to the west. Car parking is not out of place in the locality, though. There are extensive areas of car parking opposite the subject land. So from a land use perspective, I'm comfortable that it's reasonable, but whether the particular proposal can be supported, I think, turns on the extent of the impacts and that impact on residential amenity. So I think normally it's important to retain trees wherever possible. We are losing some trees here, but I think I accepted the arborist report around it. I don't think they were species that were locally indigenous, and the amenity of the area, they didn't provide or have a significant impact in that regard, or provide an important habitat for fauna. So I was comfortable with their removal, and I note that what's going to replace those trees is we're going to end up with a net, I guess, increase in tree and canopy cover in that area, which I think is important. The signage I thought was minimal, unlikely to negatively impact the locality. I was satisfied with the lighting of the car park. I think it's required from a security perspective, but I thought that sort of level of lighting wasn't likely to negatively impact those that surround it, so I think that's important. I was also satisfied with the fencing. I think the condition is important that requires that to be a minimum 1.8 metre high, as we've heard, and like Aaron mentioned, if there's negotiation between the parties to further increase that, it could be to 2.1 without requiring approval, and I think that would be a reasonable outcome. I thank obviously the representatives and applicant for their comments. I think the discussion around stormwater was very useful. There's obviously, like Aaron said, there's an existing issue in the locality, and that has to be dealt with, but I don't think this proposal adds to that, and I'm satisfied that the stormwater management measures that are going to be put in place as part of this proposal will mean that this doesn't contribute to that existing issue, and obviously that existing issue is something that needs to be dealt with separately. So all in all, I agree with the recommendation, and like I said, it sounds as if we are all in agreement. So what I might ask is whether there's any panel member prepared to move the recommendation as it stands, and to consider whether or not you wanted to seek any potential amendments to that. Aaron?
I'm happy to move it as presented through the chair.
So Aaron's moving the recommendation as it stands. Paul, just seconding. So that is the motion, that the application be approved subject to those conditions as listed. All those in favour, please raise your hand. And that's carried unanimously. So for the benefit of those who have joined us, the application has received planning consent. And you've obviously heard the comments of the panel members as to why that's the case. Now, if you do have any questions about what that means, what the conditions entail, the process from here, you're more than welcome to address those questions to the staff tomorrow. They'll be more than happy to take your questions. As a panel, we do have to move to the other administrative items that remain on our agenda, so you are welcome to stay with us, or you're also welcome to depart at this point. It's up to you. So thank you very much for your attendance and input. You did assist us in making the decision this evening. Now, members, just returning to our agenda. Thank you. We had no applications for consideration with no persons to be heard. We had no applications for Category 1 items. Outstanding matters, appeals and deferred items. Matt or Leif, is there anything you need to update us on in this regard? No. Okay, thank you. Other business. Just before I throw it open, I just want to take the opportunity to say thank you and Merry Christmas to the panel members and staff. We've had a number of interesting items this year, and I've really appreciated the input of the panel members in your considered debate and discussion on all of the items, and of course to the staff for all your help and support. The quality of the information we receive is always to a high standard, and we really appreciate what you do for us, so thank you to you all. Members, do you have any item of other business that you would like to raise? No? Any item of other business from the administration? No? Okay. Confidential matters tonight is nil. Policy, is there any item of planning policy any member wishes to raise? No? In that case, I'm happy to declare the meeting closed at 6:39 p.m. Thank you, members, for your attendance, and staff as well for your support. Have a great Christmas.
Did you know your food scraps should go in the green bin or a home compost system? It's better for the environment. It's the right thing to do. And it's easy. Fight food waste by putting all your food scraps, peels and leftovers in the green bin. To find out more, visit playford.sa.gov.au/fightfoodwaste.